Hello class, in this video we are going to learn how to create and delete virtual machines with VirtualBox. So let's get started by opening VirtualBox. If I want to create a VM, all I have to do is click on new. So let's start by giving it a name. I'm gonna call mine test. I don't know, let's give a test VM Ubuntu. Okay, now I can select where I want to place this virtual machine, in which folder I want to save it. I want to leave it as the default. Then I can also check the operating system type. Mine is obviously Linux, and then we're going to select the version of Linux. In this case is Ubuntu. If you want to take a look at any other version or distribution, just click on the name and scroll down and take a look. Then I'm going to click on next. Here in this window, I'm going to select the amount of RAM that I want to give my virtual machine. Here is 1 gig. How about we increase that to 2 gig? 2048 megabytes is equal to 2 gigs. So let's go to next. Now it's gonna ask us, do you wanna create a hard disk? Do not create a hard disk, or do you wanna use a pre-existing hard disk? I'm gonna go with create a virtual hard disk, which is the option in the middle and the one by default. Let's click on create. Then here it's gonna say what type of hard drive. We're working with VirtualBox disk image, so we're gonna go with the first one. Then next, do you want to do dynamic or fixed size? What's the difference? Dynamic size is going to consume space from your hard drive until a given point. Imagine for a moment that you gave your virtual machine 20 gigabytes of hard drive space. Your virtual machine will start consuming until it gets to 20. Once it gets to 20 gigabytes, it stops. Fixed size does nada. Fixed size takes in one shot, right at the beginning, the whole 20 gigs of space. It blocks them from your hard drive so you can't use them. Whereas the other one just starts eating from your hard drive as it grows. I go with the first one, dynamic, because I want my VM to consume the storage as it needs it, and to one point, instead of just taking 20 gigs from my computer right away. So I'm gonna go with dynamic, and in the size, what is the size of this hard drive? How about we make it 25 gigs. Then let's go on create. My virtual machine has been created. If I want to modify the settings of this virtual machine, I can either click on the settings over here or right click and click on settings. You can also get to this settings tab by going to machine and clicking on settings. Over here, let's take a look. The general tab gives me general information like the name and such. I can enable or disable clipboard redirection. This is something we are going to go over more in depth once we do the installation of Ubuntu 18.04. And here I can add some notes about the VM. Something that I like to add is if I know which operating system I'm going to install, I normally put the username, and the password over here, just so I don't forget. That's just my personal convention. That's not a standard or anything. Then here you can enable or disable disk encryption. In the next tab, we have system. You can increase the memory, change the bootloader, change the chipset. Here we have processor. You can increase or decrease the number of processor. The green area represents settings that you can increase, things that you can use, whereas the red area indicates the opposite. If I go all the way to 3 CPUs, it's gonna tell me you have selected invalid settings, and it makes sense. Let me tell you why. If I go into here, let's open this PC and let's go to properties. Let's take a look at this. This computer is running an Intel Core i7 with 8 gigs of RAM. It doesn't say here the amount of CPUs, but I know for a fact that this computer has 2 CPUs. So it's a dual core i7. Obviously, I cannot give it more than 1 core because I don't have that extra hardware to give it. Here you can display, you can increase the video memory. I'm gonna go all the way to 128 just for the sake of it. And you can enable 3D acceleration. I always like to enable 3D acceleration for better graphics. We're not going to be working with remote display servers to this point. and here you can record the virtual machine, which we're not gonna be working on either. Then we go to storage. Here you can add more storage, like I can add another hard drive if I want. um, this is something we're gonna be working on once we get to the chapter where we deal with USB drives and how to format them on Linux. In the meantime, let's put a pin on this topic. Let's put a pin on that particular tab until we get at least to the installation of the operating system. Here is audio. I can enable or disable audio. I want to disable it. I don't have a need for audio in this VM. Here is networking. We have all the way up to 4 network interface cards that we can add to this computer. Now, we are going to go more in depth on this tab once we get to the networking part of VirtualBox. For now, you can just leave it as is. Then you have a USB controller, then you have the share folder, and then you have also how you can manage the user interface. Here you can modify how the user interface looks. In share folders, you can add or remove share folders from your host machine to your guest machine. One thing that I would like to mention is in USB, if you click on USB 3.0 and you see a warning here that says incompatible hardware detected or something along those lines, it is because you have not installed the VirtualBox extension package that we downloaded on the first video. So before you even, research or anything online, just make sure you have the extension pack installed. You should have it on your downloads folder since you downloaded it in the previous video. Now, that is how you create a VM. How do you delete a VM? Oh, it's as simple as right click, delete. Remove. If you wanna keep the files on your computer, then you click on remove only. This is only gonna remove it from the VirtualBox manager. But if you wanna delete the files in the system as well, then you click on delete all files and the virtual machine is gone. I suggest you to practice this as much as you can, create as many VMs as you want, delete them and such, because next week we're going to be installing the operating system not only on the virtual machine but on the physical machine as well. If you have any question, find me on Discord or shoot me an email. See you next class.